Even on its busiest days, LA Metro's K line is empty. About 6 months after it opened in October 2022, only about 2,000 riders per day use it. Now, when you ride the K line, there doesn't really seem to be anything wrong with it. The stations are clean and modern. Trains come every 10 minutes. Stations feature art that showcases the history and culture of the surrounding neighborhoods. But even though transit ridership in LA has generally been struggling due to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, reduced service, and concerns about rider safety, 2,000 riders per day is incredibly low, especially for America's second largest city. It's lower than most of Metro's bus routes, but took 8 years and cost $2.1 billion to build. So what happened? Well, the short answer is that it doesn't really go anywhere. Yet. Now, of course the K line does go places. It was built to serve the densely populated Crenshaw Corridor, the city of Inglewood, and LAX, all places that need high-quality transit connections. But the line isn't fully open yet, with only 7 of 9 stations seeing service, and no direct airport connection. This is because the future LAX station is still under construction, which prevents the line from going south of Westchester. A temporary bus shuttle connects this station with a C line at Aviation LAX, and a different bus shuttle is required to get from that station to the airport. In a year or so, the K line will connect and run on the tracks of the C line in one of these service patterns that the LA Metro Board has yet to choose. The future LAX station isn't quite at the airport, but riders will use an automated people mover to travel toward the gates. But for now, the lack of a direct airport connection really hurts the K line's ridership potential. LAX has over 50,000 employees and over 60 million yearly passengers. Without LAX, most of the attractive destinations on the K line are near the northern few stations, but this area is already well served by buses, where several come more frequently than the train does. So how did this route get chosen? Why did the K line open without its much anticipated airport connection? And why didn't the K line go directly to SoFi Stadium and the other multi-billion-dollar entertainment venues being built in Inglewood? To answer these questions, we must look far back at the history of the corridor. This starts with the old LA Railway, whose 5 train ran along a similar route. In 1955, streetcars were replaced with bus service. In the 1960s, the route was studied for rapid transit as part of a countywide system similar to BART in the Bay Area. The Crenshaw Corridor would have been part of an airport southwest line that would connect LAX to downtown LA, but these plans never materialized. In the 90s, rail transit was studied once again in response to the 1992 LA uprising, since upgraded transit can improve quality of life for one of LA's largest black communities. The 1993 Crenshaw Prairie Preliminary Planning Study envisioned rail or an improved bus corridor starting at the Pico Rimpau Transit Center and ending at either LAX or the Hawthorne Plaza Mall. 5 of the 6 alternatives would have provided transfers to 3 rapid transit lines: the under construction C line in the median of the 105 freeway, the Exposition Light Rail Corridor, which would later become the E line, and a never-built extension of the D line subway. Several different modes were considered, such as a fully underground subway, at-grade light rail, elevated light rail, trolleybus, and aerial metro. The other studied alternative was light rail to LAX, which would follow the old Santa Fe Harbor subdivision. The result of the 1993 study was to move forward with 3 alternatives: the aerial north-south light rail, the north-south subway, and light rail to LAX. In the following years, the subway option was dropped due to high cost, and the 2 light rail options were merged into a forked route, with branches going to LAX and the Hawthorne Plaza Mall. No funding was immediately available to build the line, but LA Metro and city leaders continued studying the route to better prepare it for potential federal money. In 1997, the University of Southern California School of Architecture teamed up with the LA County MTA to envision station designs along the corridor, with an emphasis of how they could be a catalyst for economic development. Many of these designs were highly aspirational, featuring geodesic domes, pyramids, grand mezzanines, and giant awnings. They would have been overbuilt for their function, but it's fascinating to see the scale of these concepts. None of these designs really had a meaningful impact on the final design of the K line, but I find them to be a fascinating aspirational vision of the future that was never realized. In the 2000s, Metro would refine the K line's route to prepare for funding and construction. They dropped the branch down Prairie to cut costs. They kept the branch to LAX because of higher ridership projections, and because it integrated better with the C line, which was built with a partially constructed junction to facilitate an LAX connection. They also decided to not yet build north to connect to the D line subway, which was now being extended to the west side instead of the Pico Rimpau Transit Center. They did, however, decide that this future northern connection would someday happen at Wilshire La Brea, though no funding was available to do so in the initial construction. In January 2014, ground was broken on the K line, which would now feature 8 new stations between the Expo Crenshaw E-Line station and the Aviation LAX C-Line station. The connection to LAX was not yet finalized, as Metro and the LA Airport Authority were still deciding whether they would further extend the light rail directly to the airport, or rely on a connection to a people mover that was planned to connect the airport to a future rental car facility. By June 2014, Metro decided on a people mover connection at Aviation and 96th Street, since it would offer the fastest travel times and was far cheaper than another light rail extension. It would also keep trips faster for riders that wanted to ride past LAX. One interesting detail is how close the LAX station will be to the not yet open Aviation Century station that was part of the K-Line's original construction. This is because Metro planned it long before the people mover route was even chosen, and later thought they could connect the station to the people mover via a short walkway. However, Metro's board of directors, which was recently shaken up due to Eric Garcetti becoming mayor in 2013, was not satisfied with this planned connection. They wanted the transfer between the K-Line and the LAX people mover to be as short as possible, which necessitated a new station only 0.4 miles away from Aviation Century. As a condition of their approval of the station, the LA Metro board set several requirements, like public restrooms, public art, and a grand concourse, to make this station a sort of grand gateway to LAX. So after all this was figured out, the original plan was to build the K-Line, open it in 2019, and then temporarily sever the line a few years later to construct the LAX station in time for the airport people mover's planned 2023 opening. But since the K-Line's construction took 3 years longer than expected due to bad work by the contractor, the southern part of the line never opened. Instead, construction on the airport station began immediately after the contractor in charge of the K-Line handed it over to Metro. Since the new LAX station was to have a center platform far wider than the space between the tracks as originally planned, one set of tracks would have to be cut out and moved. And this couldn't happen until all testing was completed from the first phase of K-Line construction. In 2015, St. Louis Rams owner Stan Kroenke announced plans to develop a 70,240-seat NFL stadium in Inglewood as part of his plan to bring the Rams back to Los Angeles. The project was able to bypass environmental review using a loophole, and ground broke in 2016. By this time, the K-Line's construction was well underway, but would not really serve the stadium despite running a mile from it. In 2016, the LA Metro Board of Directors ordered staff to study a transit connection to the stadium. 4 options were considered. One would have been an extension of the K-Line that would branch off south of the Fairview Heights station and would travel in a tunnel beneath Prairie Avenue. This option would be eliminated due to high costs and negative impacts to the K-Line service pattern. Another option was to build a separate urban tram system connecting the downtown Inglewood station to the stadium. And the other 2 options would have built a people mover connecting to the LAX K-Line station, but would operate separately from the airport people mover. Eventually, option 1 was chosen as the best route, but was changed from an urban tram to an automated people mover to avoid conflicts with traffic. Inglewood took over the project planning from Metro, and thus the Inglewood Transit Connector was born. Further study narrowed the project down to 3 stations. A station in downtown Inglewood to connect to the K-Line, a station at Prairie and Manchester to connect to the Kia Forum, and a station at Prairie and Hardy to connect to the SoFi Stadium and the future Intuit Dome basketball arena. And a second phase could someday connect the people mover to the Hawthorne Lennox C-Line station. As of May 2023, the final technology for the transit connector has not yet been chosen, but it would either be the same Alstom Innovia system used for the airport people mover, a Doppelmayr cable-pulled people mover, or a BYD battery-powered monorail. But all 3 would feature small, fully automated trains that would come as frequently as every 2 minutes on game days. When SoFi Stadium was finished in 2020, the K-Line wasn't open yet, and the last mile connection to the stadium via the people mover was many years off. But the stadium's planners had already prioritized cars over transit by building thousands of parking spaces and wide roads connecting them to the nearby freeways. However, this is clearly not working well. Game day traffic is notoriously terrible, where it can take over an hour to even get out of the parking lot afterwards. Now, there is a free game day shuttle that connects the C Line to the stadium, and an express bus from the Harbor Gateway Transit Center, but only a small portion of guests have been taking advantage of these options. The sea of parking spaces isn't much different than how the Hollywood Park racetrack was before SoFi Stadium was constructed. But you'd think after spending billions of dollars and permanently changing Inglewood in so many ways, we could have something much better. In the long term, developers plan to build housing and hotels in SoFi Stadium's parking lots, and construct walkable plazas that connect to the People Mover stations. But it's already clear that this new development will not integrate well into Inglewood's urban fabric. It will be a lot like the Las Vegas Strip, where you can walk between expensive touristy areas, but won't be encouraged to go outside of that. And residents living in the luxury apartments next to the stadium will have to get in their cars and drive outside to get groceries or go to their jobs. But if a train to Inglewood were a priority instead of an afterthought, the stadium's construction could have placed less emphasis on cars to create a livable, vibrant space instead of a sea of concrete. Maybe the whole situation surrounding the Inglewood Entertainment District is a testament to how capital and political connections are what really drive change in our cities, instead of comprehensive regional planning. Or maybe just a testament to how slow Metro builds things in comparison to private development. But it doesn't make any sense that the K-Line and Inglewood People Mover had to go through years of environmental review, studying things like traffic impacts and parking, while SoFi Stadium did not. But that is why the K-Line doesn't go to LAX or SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, and will instead rely on connections to two separate People Mover systems to get to those destinations. Now, there are plenty of other reasons why the K-Line doesn't quite live up to its potential, like bad land use near stations, a lack of transit-oriented development, bad connecting bus service at the south end of the line, and unsafe streets that don't encourage walking or biking to stations. And the Inglewood People Mover is due to make the same mistakes by building hundreds of parking spaces instead of homes or hotels near some of its stations. But it's just so fascinating to see how a lack of coordination and regional planning led to some truly important connections lagging years behind the K-Line's original opening date. As for the future, the Aviation Century and LAX Metro Transit Center stations should open sometime next year, providing a connection to the LAX Airport People Mover, which is set to open sometime next year. When SoFi Stadium was announced in Inglewood, the city pushed for a new grade separation project at Centinela Avenue as an attempt to mitigate game day traffic. This would have disrupted service on the K-Line for another couple years, but the city is now trying to cancel it to redirect the funds toward the Inglewood Transit Connector project. If they are able to do this, construction should start next year, and would start running sometime in 2028. In a similar time frame, the K-Line stations that were originally part of the C Line in El Segundo will have their platforms extended and power systems upgraded, which will allow 3-car trains to run on the K-Line. Also, Metro might run some C Line trains to downtown Inglewood on game days to better connect with the Inglewood Transit Connector. By 2033, Metro hopes to extend the C or K Line south 4.5 miles, adding 2 stations in Redondo Beach and Torrance. Looking further out, Metro wants to extend the K-Line north to Hollywood. It would run on one of these 3 alignments, and would finally connect the K-Line to the D-Line subway, then continue north to connect with the B-Line subway, and end at the Hollywood Bowl. This project would be transformational, and add as many as 90,000 daily riders to the K-Line. It probably won't get built anytime soon, as sales tax funding won't be available for the project until the early 2040s. But a coalition in the city of West Hollywood wants to accelerate the project using funding from real estate development. This would also mean that the longest and most expensive option for the project, called the San Vicente Fairfax Hybrid Alignment, will probably be chosen. Just recently, Metro announced that they would likely build this northern extension in phases, with the first phase connecting to the D-Line on Wilshire Boulevard. Even just this shorter section would substantially improve the K-Line's connectivity and ridership. So despite everything that has led to initial low ridership, the K-Line represents a turning point for LA Metro's rail transit system. It won't be a game changer or a silver bullet for regional transportation, but it will soon provide a useful connection to the airport and is a starting point for a full-length K line that would connect to some of LA's densest neighborhoods. This is only the second LA Metro rail line that doesn't go to downtown LA, and is just the beginning of a larger grid-like system. The K line might not be much right now because of some earlier oversights, but we just have to keep building it.